My prose poem is called Buried Chain. It's Friday night after midnight. My body is so very tired, my brain will not let me go. And I keep thinking on something here, how it is that some Southerners will not let go of the betrayal of the Confederacy, which it certainly was. You know, I think on the case, and I've realized that even Mars, that was Mars is a nickname for Robert E. Lee, even his famous horse, his famous gray, he called him Traveler, understood that the great man had betrayed him. So here's my prose poem. Buried Chain. We were in bivouac, having ridden hard that day, having forced the long march to where we could make camp. We were the first to occupy the higher ground from where the river run led. On the next day we would meet them, in the morning maybe, or in the early afternoon, just as soon as the blue phalanx came. My job wasn't much in that war. I hadn't been kept to kill or maim, or even to lead the tender boys through the defile of fire, taking them to where the green fields would grow greener still. Hard to say why, but early on the general had seen me marching by, had called me out of the line, had told me to keep to the grooming and care of his dappled gray, his Traveler. Which is how it was that the old man's horse came to where I was bending over the clear water, where I was washing the dust from my face and out of my eyes, and taking the cool drink. His tall shadow coming first, and maybe I could feel his pain. Looking up, and then around, the big gray was standing there, his neck hanging down just behind me. He couldn't exactly talk, but he did have a manner of saying what he had to say, and so I learned he was in pain, that something was embedded in one of his hooves. Bending each leg back, I finally found the thing. It was a long metal chain strung to a flattened disk of gleaming gold and sharp edges. It was a treasure that was as hurtful to him as it could have been a precious find to anyone other than him. A gold pocket watch. And Traveler's relief was immediate. His gratitude of the sort that washes over companions. When his eyes were clear again, when he could focus on something other than the hurt that had been cutting into him, he turned his eyes back to where the man was standing in mid-distance. The man who had let us those many times, whose blue eyes we'd keep on keeping to even after he was gone. And maybe it was in how the gray's mane quivered with an itch running its way down his neck, or maybe it was still that way he had for saying what he said. But it was a word of sorrow that he spoke, turning back away from his long march rider, and straightening himself to the full hand span of his easy stature. And he was somehow saying he pitied the great man so weighted down that he hadn't been able to feel for the hurt of his best beloved gray had ridden to all that day. Or maybe it was just another bad dream. The long march, the rider, the buried chain.